Hello, looking at lesson 1.2 today, and that is the operations of real numbers. So we're going to look at, well, actually, you've already done adding and subtracting real numbers because that was first day activity. So today we're really going to focus more on the multiplying and dividing with a little bit of review on the other. So here we go. Adding real numbers. You'll notice we've got some decimals, and sometimes people are like, "Ooh, it's been a while since I have done that." So let's just start right off, and here we go. I think because I have the fact that they're both negative numbers, I can, let me silence my phone. I can simply put them together and say I'm going to have a negative result. So I'm going to pretend like I'm adding positives because these do in fact join together. I do know they're both negatives, but I'm in the addition mode here. Negative and negative makes more negatives. And then vertically, I aligned my decimal point to give me then 2.3. For B, I have a negative added with another negative. Okay, so I'm going to get more negatives. And then I have 3/4 and 5/8. I need a like denominator. And what might that like denominator be? Well, correct. I'm looking at the difference between a fourth and an eighth. What would they both go into? Well, they both go into eighths. So I think I'm going to take my first one, the negative 3/4, and I'm going to multiply it by 2/2. That's like multiplying by 1. Indeed, right? Plus a negative 5/8. So that's going to give me negative 3 times 2 is 6/8, and it is indeed negative, plus a negative 5/8. Since we have that like denominator, our denominator will be eighths, and I have negative 6 plus negative 5, so obviously negative 11/8. The last one, I've got a positive number, the 4.6, and a negative number, the 3.8. Since the signs are different, that was supposed to say an S there, signs are different, I need to subtract. I need to find a difference, right, between, subtract the numbers. So I'm going to put my larger one on top, my smaller one on the bottom, and I'm just first going to find the difference of them. And, ooh, it is a borrowing situation, isn't it? I need to borrow over. Hang on a minute. All right, I'm back at it. Whoops, Mr. Strain was in, we were talking. So we talked about negative and positive, and we were subtracting to find the difference on these. So now when I subtract 16 minus 8, I get 8. 3 minus 3 gives me 0, so I've got to get a 0 and that decimal point copied down. Now, is it positive or is it negative? And to determine that, I'm going to take a look at the size, relative size of each of the numbers. I have more positive than I have negative, so I know my answer will be positive. All right, objective 2, subtracting real numbers. So this is just talking to us about if I see subtraction, like let's just say we have 5 minus 3. I could also think of that as 5 plus negative 3, correct? We can take any subtraction sign and change it into a plus minus and have an equivalent statement. So that's what this is referring to. Should be something that you're quite aware of. Negative 11.5 minus negative 0.3. Well, I have two negatives sitting side by side, so I'm going to say negative and negative creates a positive. All right, now I'm doing this by hand, and Chapter 1 test will be by hand. You will not be allowed calculators. So I need to know how to do this. I see I have opposite signs, so I know I need to find a difference. So I'm going to put my larger value, 11.5, on top over a 6.3, subtract, find their difference. 5 minus 3 is 2. 11 minus 6 is 5. Decimal point goes there. Now, if I just wrote down 5.2, I'd be incorrect because negative 11 is a larger negative, more negatives than there are positives. So my answer indeed will be negative 5.2. Let's go to question B. A fraction one, and we talked about fractions having it's necessary to have like denominators. My like denominator I can see would be 12. 4 will go into 12, 3 will go into 12. The minus minus, that's going to come together as a positive, isn't it? So I'm going to have 3/4. I'm going to leave a little space, plus 2/3. The reason I'm leaving some space is I want to be able to manipulate my fraction so that I have the right denominator. Since I'm going for 12ths, I'm going to multiply this by 3/3. And over here, I'm going for 12, so I'm going to multiply by 4/4. Now, multiply across the top, we get 9/12 plus 8/12. Oops, what am I writing? 3/4. 12. And final answer, 8 plus 9 gives me 17/12. Like denominators. C. Well, this is capturing my eye right away. So I'm just going to rewrite -6 plus 2, -8 minus 1. I realize it took a line of space and it didn't take me very long to rewrite it, but it helps my brain be able to see things more clearly. So I could go -6 plus 2 would be -4 minus 8 minus 1. And then they're all negative, so I'm just going to add them up like they were positives. 4 plus 8 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. Since they have the same sign, I can add them up and then attach the negative because the answer is -13. All right, I hope you see what I see, and that is the little old grouping bracket here. The squared out one. So what implications does this have? I'm going to do this as -3 minus, and inside I'm going to work this first. 15 minus 7 is an 8. So inside those squared out brackets, the result is 8. And now I'm going to take, I really don't need the bracket, so I'm just going to rewrite it. It's good for your notes because then you know exactly how we came upon our final answer. I'm going to get -11 plus 6. The bracket really was not necessary at that point, was it? And then I get -5 for my answer. Awesome. Multiplying real numbers. So is this the final? Well, we're getting there. All right. -5/8 times 16. When you are multiplying, if I have the same signs, the product of two numbers is going to be positive. So if I had a negative times a negative, it's going to result in a positive, isn't it? If I have different signs, if I have one negative times one positive, indeed, I'll come out with a negative. So in this case, I have a negative times a positive. I'm going to come out with a definite negative. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to take 5/8 times 16/1, just to see if you remember how to multiply fractions. I multiply across the top. So I'm going to multiply across the top, and I'm going to multiply across the bottom. We'll do it right there. This will equal -15, or 5 times 16 is 80. And on the bottom I have 8. 8 times 1 is 8. And 8 goes into 80 10 times, so I'm going to have -10. Maybe some of you were thinking, why is she not just reducing? And you certainly could. I could have done -5 times 2 and still got an answer of -10, correct? So that's fine too if you'd rather do it that way. All right. Finally, B. 3.4 times 4.56. Well, you know what? Immediately I'm going to say, I know I have a negative answer because I have a positive times a negative. I'm going to put the number with more digits on top, my smaller digit count on bottom. You'll notice you could leave your negative in there if you wish. We're multiplying. How do you multiply? Well, we don't worry about the decimal point in the beginning here, but we start with the 4. So I'm going to take 4 times 6 is 24, carry a 2. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 more is 22, carry a 2. 4 times 4 is 16, plus that 2 would have 16, so I have 18. Next line, I'll switch to a different color. I'm on the 3. We put a 0 placeholder in, don't we? Because we are one digit inward. So we got to get a placeholder. 6 times 3 is 18, carrying a 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Carry a 1. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. You'll also notice I was very careful about lining up my columns so that things are organized, right? And I can tell what needs to be added together because now we're on the step of addition. 4 and 0 make 4. 2 and 8 make 10, carry a 1. 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. 1 again carried. 2 plus 3 is 5 and a 1. Now, I know my answer shouldn't be 15,000 because a 4 times a 3 is roughly 12. So I'm looking somewhere in the neighborhood of negative 12. So obviously 15 is probably my answer, and I could guess that the decimal point probably goes there. But the correct way to do it is to go and add up the number of digits behind the decimal place. So I have 1, 2, 3 units of decimal places. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, which indeed gives me 15.504. But if you recall, we knew we were going to have a negative answer. So we get 15, negative 15. What was it? 504. 504. You may want to replay that just to get that down again. People do have trouble multiplying decimal numbers together. Dividing fractions will be fun. So I'm going to take negative 3/8 and turn division into multiplication, 16/11. And when I do that, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. So change division to multiplication. Multiplication by multiplying by the reciprocal. Oops, I'm getting slowed down there. Reciprocal. So that's what you're seeing. I'm taking that second number and flipping it over. Now, I've got negative 3/8 times 16/11. You could multiply across the top and across the bottom and reduce. Or if you want to, reduce early rather than later, we can do that. We can take 8 and divide it into 16 and get it as a 2. So I get negative 6. 1 times 11 is 11. Negative 6/11. Part B, 28.85 divided by 5.3. I'm going to clear my screen so I can get some space on this one. Okay, so I'm going to make my division box. 23.85 is divided by 5.3. So if you read it from left to right, it should help you set it up correctly. Now, I'm going to multiply by 10 so that I have a full number on the outside. And if I multiply both of them by 10, I'm now talking 53 divides into 238.5. So that's where I'm going to start. And you ask yourself, does 53 go into 2? No. Does 53 go into 23? No. Does 53 go into 238? Yes, it does. So I'm roughly thinking 50 in my head, and I know 50 times 4 is roughly 200, right? So I'm going to try a 4 here and hope that I landed right. 4 times 3 is 12, carry a 1. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21. We are now into subtraction, aren't we? So I subtract this number and find the difference. How close was I by using 4 times 53? I'm going to have a 6 and a 2, a 26 left over. Okay, that's fine. And then 5 comes down. Okay. Then I have 265. Let's do 265 right now. I don't want to put that decimal there. I wanted to put the decimal point up there. I wasn't paying attention. So the decimal is going to go straight up from where it was positioned. Now, 265. Will 53 go into 265? Indeed, it will. 50 times 2 is 100. 50 times 3, 50 times 4. Well, 50 times 4 was 200. Where am I starting? 50 times 5. Let's try a 5, because that's roughly 250. So let's see. Let's make sure we don't go over, and we'll be okay. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry a 1. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 1. Oh, looky there. It's the same. We're going to have a remainder of 0 because I got to subtract. The answer to this question is 4.5. Check it on your calculator. Probably check your answers today when you're doing your calculator, because some of these are hard. And trust me, the test will be a little challenging when you get problems like that. Okay, so I've got 3/4 divided by -7/16. I'm going to change this to multiplication. And I'm going to change this by using the reciprocal. So you see I did a little loop-de-loop, so I'm going to flip it over. That's what the loop-de-loop means to me, I guess. Alrighty. Now, I know I'm going to come out with a negative answer. And maybe some of you are noticing that we can do some reduction. 4 does go into 16 4 times. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 16 4 times. And then I could multiply across the top 3 times -4, and 1 times 7 gets an answer of -12 sevenths. If you don't like that way of doing it, you don't like reducing, oops, sorry about that. You could have done 3/4 times -16 sevenths and got -48 over 28, and then reduce it down. 4 does go into both of these. We get -12. 4 into 28 is 7. And there's our same answer. All right. I think we are nearly done here. Identify which fractions are equal. And this is, do you know how to read the negative signs? I have -3/5. Is this also -3/5? Yes, right? That negative sign could be moved to the top. It also could be written out front. All 3 of those are equal, like I stated with the equality sign. So A and B are a match. These are equal. Is C and D equal? Well, negative divided by negative is a positive, so these 2 are also equal. Yay! That should be the end of our lesson, and it is. There is the assignment, page 21, 42 through 50, 58 through 86, 92, 94. We are only going to do the evens on all of these problems. So you should be fine. I'm just double checking, make sure that's exactly, yeah, that is exactly right. Show your work, use a calculator to verify, but use your brain first, okay? Have a great day.